The recording. So welcome everybody to your hour with Cliff Karthauser. That should be the name of this, right?
Well, my last name is hard to pronounce, so maybe we'll just go with Cliff. I don't know.
Okay, we'll just
So,
go with Cliff. Well, thank you all for being here. We'll continue to let people in. I am not Silas Jessup. I am Sandra Gardetta. I'm the operations manager. I work closely with Silas. And but it's my privilege to help host this today with you, Cliff. And also, I believe we actually have Dan Biscarden also joining us. So we're going to uh, give a shout out to Dan. Do you see him on here?
I see a black box. Dan, do you have your video? Can you put your video on or your picture on if you're there?
Oh, yes, he's on a call with the marketplace. Wonderful.
Okay. All
Have
right.
fun with that, Dan.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Cliff, the time is all yours, my friend.
Okay. Sandra, thank you. Sandra and I have met and spent some time together. Guys, the first time we met, it's probably been a year and a half ago now, but
Yeah.
thanks for hosting today. Really appreciate it and welcome. Good to see everybody. I'm starting to see more and more familiar faces, which is awesome, which is really, really great. And so I kind of titled this workshop today, or our lesson, How to Raise Your Standards. And we're going to get to that. Hopefully you've got a copy of the participants guide. I'm going to make a couple of opening comments before we dig into the guide. Success isn't just about strategy, and we all want to be successful. And so when you think about it, it's about the heart and the mindset and the hunger that we bring to the table every day, that you bring to your business every day. And we have to do that. So when we bring heart into what we do each day, work becomes something more. When we truly bring heart into what we're doing and we have passion behind it, work becomes something more. It really becomes almost more of a mission. And you don't just show up when you have heart and you have mindset, you rise. You don't just show up, you actually rise. But passion isn't enough. And why do I say that? It's important to have passion, but passion isn't enough. And why do I say that? It's important to have a map for the road ahead. And you're getting ready to close out your recognition year at the end in a couple of weeks, and you'll start a brand new year. I'm not sure why Health Markets runs March 1 to the end of February. You can run January to December, whatever is right for your business.
Yeah.
But your recognition year is about to end.
Yeah. Some of
And
our applications don't hit the system until
okay,
January, February.
okay. And so here we are getting ready for a brand new fresh start. And so it's important to have a map for the road ahead because motivation fades and life throws us curveballs. So if you're not crystal clear on your next move, it's easy to get stuck. And so now's the time to be thinking about that. So the question is, what's next? What's next? What's the vision that will pull you forward in the next 1 year, in the next 3 years, maybe even 5 years? People don't buy products and services, they buy a future. They buy a future. And the biggest mistake a lot of businesses make is they fall in love with their product instead of falling in love with their customer. So what's the next evolution for your business? How are you anticipating what your customers will need a year from now, 3 years from now, before they even know it? When your future is so clear and so compelling and so exciting, you don't have to push yourself. It pulls you forward. It literally will pull you forward. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to dream bigger. As we all have an opportunity to start this brand new year. So I want you to dream bigger and I want you to think longer term. Step up and create a future that's so extraordinary, your customers can't help but wanting to be a part of that. Man, how exciting would that be, right? I mean, how exciting would that be? And so you've got your guide in front of you. Hopefully you've all either on your screen or in front of you. I think Michelle's driving, so she's probably, Michelle, don't be looking at your guide if you're in your car. But I want to talk a little bit about discovering the power of one word. Now, what's crazy is 9 out of 10 people will fail with their resolutions. You've all heard that. We know that. A lot of the resolutions that people made in January, they're already off the table. They've already kind of fallen through the cracks. 50% of resolution makers will fail by the end of January. So 50% have already, that's in the wastebasket. It's already in the toilet. But one word sticks. One word sticks. One word will give you meaning and mission and purpose and passion. One word, one word. And it will help you focus on what matters most. One word. It'll help you focus on what matters most. And one word can help you be your best and create a great year this year. And why do I say that? Because one word impacts sports teams, it impacts businesses, it impacts schools, it even impacts families. And the thing about one word is it will choose you at the right time. It's not random. It's not just random. It will choose you at the right time. So if you reflect and you go through a process, I want all of you to do this. Reflect and go through a process. Your word for this year will come to you. So what I want you to do is reflect on the past year and think about this year and ask yourself, what one word will give you meaning and purpose and focus? And so then, not now, but soon, I want you to write your thoughts down and start to think about what words come to mind. And I laid out some questions in your guide that will help you find and receive that word. And real quickly, what are some of those questions? Well, what do you want to focus on this year? As you look at your business, what do you want to focus on this year? What's in the way? What may be in the way of you accomplishing your goals, your objectives for this year, your commitments? What do you need more of? What do you need less of? And what needs to change? As you reflect and look at your business, what may need to change for you to have the kind of year that you want to have? What matters most? And then what one word would drive you this year to be your best? Two more keys that I want you to think about as it relates to that one word. Discover, don't pick. Your word will find you if you're willing to be patient and silent. So discover, don't pick. And the second thing is don't stress. We drift to complexity, don't we? Instead of driving to simplicity. And so one word is just a simple discipline that's not difficult. And there are probably a lot of words that you can think of for yourself as we enter a new year. Identifying your one word, that's just part of the journey. So I'm going to stop there for a second, maybe call on Gary, and any thoughts that come to mind as maybe you reflect and reflect on last year, think about this year, and maybe what one word would be a word that you'd like to use for 2025 for this year. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I guess my thought is the same as I had this past year, and that is passion. If I
Yeah.
can continue to have passion for what I do, then it gets me out of bed in the morning before the alarm.
That's awesome. I'm going to call on my buddy from a different territory. Hopefully, maybe he's off the phone, or I know he was on a call. But Dan, I've known Dan for many, many years. Dan Bosgarden, he's part of Steve Kirsch's territory. He's on John Jacoby's team. And I've been serving as Dan's personal coach, business coach for, gosh, probably about 3 years now. Dan, can you hear me? Are you there? He may still be on
It
that
said he,
call.
it said he was on the call still. Sorry.
Okay, still on the call. Anybody else have any quick thoughts on discovering the power of one word? Anybody have a thought that they'd want to share?
For me, it's lead this year.
Is that Ronnie?
It is.
What was the word again?
Lead.
Awesome. Lead. It's always the why behind the word that gives it meaning. Why do you say lead?
Just to give more accountability and positive feedback and opportunity for growth for the sub-agents so that we are doing, all of us doing our very best. And also me leading by example for my team.
That's awesome. And this is a great, for those of you who have a team like Ronnie, maybe even for the sales leader, some of you on the call, for Rick, it's a great team exercise to do. And so everybody, you find your word for the year and then you share that with your team. And then ask them, okay, why did you choose that word for this year? Because it's the why behind the word that gives it meaning. And then pick a team word or a territory word. What's our word going to be for this year as a team? Your sales team, whether it's a sales leader, executive sales leader, whether it's a territorial VP, whether it's Ronnie with her team, it's a great team exercise. Why did you choose that word? It's the why behind the word that gives that word meaning, and it brings connectivity and chemistry and maybe a deeper relationship as you build team chemistry. Anybody else have a thought they'd want to share on a word that just kind of came? Again, don't press, don't stress. Your word will come to you. You don't have to pick. It will come to you at the right time. It's not random. Anybody else? Alfred, do you have a thought?
Yes, I do. I would say abundance.
Abundance.
Yes.
That's an awesome word. Why would you pick that word?
Just because I believe, with hard work, I mean, you're just gonna achieve abundance in your life as a whole. So
Okay.
that's just the first word that came to my mind, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna go for.
That's awesome. Good to see you, by the way.
You too.
Glad you're here. Anybody else? If not, we're gonna continue on.
I like the word consistency.
Okay, who is this? I don't.
Armando.
Oh, there we go. Consistency. That's another great word.
Yeah. Yeah. Because even if, you might not be successful today, but if you do the same thing and you keep trying and you keep attempting, I think there's nowhere you can be, but in the success category at that point.
That's awesome. Good for you. How do you raise your standards? How to raise your standards and get out of your business this year what you want, maybe even life. How do you raise your standards? Well, we all have a list of shoulds, things we know that we should do. And I laid a few out in your guide. I should work out. I should make more calls. I should eat healthy. I should set more appointments. We do our shoulds when it's easy. When it's not, we don't. So what do you want to do? Instead, make it a must. Instead of should do this, I should do that, turn your should into a must. When you see someone who is extraordinary at anything, they're not just lucky. They're doing something different from you. So you see what they're doing and you do the same thing. You plant the same seeds. And what'll happen is you'll begin to reap the same rewards. Whether we do these things or not will have something to do with our belief system. It will absolutely have something to do with our belief system. If you believe that you're not capable of tier 3 or tier 4, or maybe tier 4 times 2, you'll sabotage yourself subconsciously. If you don't believe that you're not capable of getting from tier 1 to tier 2, or tier 3 to tier 4, or tier 4 times 2, you will subconsciously sabotage yourself. These stories, these things we tell ourselves, they get in the way. They get in the way. The self-talk, they get in the way. So if you're going to run a successful business, here's a key. You can't measure something if you don't, or you can't manage something if you don't measure it. measurement, accountability is critically important as it relates to the business that you're all in. If you can't manage something, you can't measure it. The more you measure it, the better it gets, because we get really, really good at what we measure. Where focus goes, energy flows. So the one thing that's so important to measure is your standards, the standards that you have for your business. And so where are you around your standards? And we're going to discuss 4. We're not going to spend a lot of time on poor, but we are going to discuss poor standards. So poor, good, excellent, outstanding. And I want all of you to strive for excellent and outstanding. And so, you think about that, and you've got you've got a diagram in your handout, and so that first standard, it's way down here, isn't it? That first standard is it's way at the bottom. So if you have poor standards, you're willing to do a lousy job. Now, none of you want to do a lousy job in your business, but sometimes we see people, they have poor standards. And if they have poor standards, they're willing to do a lousy job. And if you have poor standards and you do a lousy job, what rewards would you expect? Poor rewards, right? Your business works the same way. It absolutely works the same way. If tier 3 is enough money to pay your bills and do the things you want, that's probably a must for you. Maybe it's tier 4. Now, for some people, that's a must. It's a must for them to be a tier 4 agent. It may be, for some people, it may be a must for them to pay their bills most of the time. And that's what they do. For some people, it's a must to have more than they could ever spend so they can do more, share more, impact more people for as long as they want. I mean, you think about that. For some people, it's a must for them to have more than they could ever spend. And why? So they can do, share, give as much as they want to as many people as they want for as long as they want. That's a different experience, right? Your standards shape everything. The standards that you set in your business shape everything. So if poor is way down at the bottom, it's way at the bottom, and you've got it in your guide. If you have poor standards, you'll do a poor job in your business. And it used to be, if you did a poor job, what kind of rewards did you get? Poor. But today the world is so competitive and it's so different because of the web, technology, artificial intelligence. Today, if you do a poor job, you may lose your opportunity. You may be let go. You certainly won't be taken seriously, right? So if poor is way down here, it's a giant leap to that next standard, which is good. And what have we been taught? We've been taught to be good. We've been taught to be good, to be a good mother, to be a good father, to be a good friend, to be a good teammate, to be a good agent. We've been taught that. Good seems to be so wonderful because if you do a good job, what kind of rewards? Good, because that's the way it was. Not anymore. If you do a good job today, the rewards may not be all that good. You're not going to get that bonus. Sometimes the rewards may even be poor. Good's not enough anymore. And why do I say that? Why? Because the expectations are higher. People expect a lot more than good now. Doing a good job, meeting expectations, you may keep your customer, but it's exceeding expectations that gets noticed. So your minimum bar should be to always meet the expectations of your customers, your clients, but your true goal should be to exceed those expectations because that's what gets noticed. Now, we may not like the fact that good isn't enough anymore, but we have to understand it. We have to understand it. And sometimes that's hard for us to understand. So what do? We try to do a better job of being good. And what do we get? The same rewards. And then what? We say to ourselves, why do I even bother about being good? And we get more and more frustrated. So that's not the answer. That's not the answer. So it's a giant leap from way down here, poor, to good. And it's another giant leap to excellent. And when you're excellent, you won't settle for good. You won't settle for good. You work extra, you show up earlier, you stay a little bit later, you make a few more calls, you set a few more appointments, you push through, right? You push through, you go the extra mile. And why do you do that? Because when you're excellent, you're recognized as one of the very best. You're recognized as one of the very best. And when you are really excellent, what would you expect? Excellent rewards. And that's the way it used to be. But today, when you're really excellent, you get good rewards. Maybe even really good rewards. And what does that do? It pisses off excellent people. If we do excellent work, this upsets us. We say to ourselves, I'm giving everything I've got. I'm all in. I can't do anymore. That's all I've got. So if poor is way down here and it's a giant leap to good and it's another giant leap to excellent, and people at excellent are saying, I'm doing everything I can. There's no more, there's nothing left. I'm here to tell you, there's another level in you. It may seem insane to make another giant leap, but you don't have to. You don't have to. The level you're looking at with all the rewards is just 2 millimeters, just a tiny, small step above all the others. And it's called outstanding. It's called outstanding. You're not one of the best. You are the best. You've gone through where nothing seemed to work in your business, frustrations, and you kept pushing and you kept pushing. Nothing was working. And all of a sudden, what happens? You have a breakthrough. You got to the other side. You hung in there long enough to have that breakthrough. Now, what starts to occur? You stand out from all the rest. Just a bit. Just a tiny bit. It's not another giant leap. When everyone else is saying that's all I've got, you find another level, you find another gear, and then you get all the rewards. In every culture, in every business, we reward people disproportionately for being outstanding. Think about it. When someone does something no one else has done before, it changes everybody. It changes everybody. I'm going to stop here in a second, but I'm going to give you a prime example of this. I've been a lifelong runner, competed in college, high school and college, and so I'm very familiar. Some of you may know this name, some of you may not, but Roger Bannister was the first runner to break the 4-minute mile barrier. And he did this in 1959. No one thought it was humanly possible to break 4 minutes in the mile. And why? Because it had never been done. It had never been done. And 3 months after Roger Bannister ran a sub 4-minute mile, 3 other runners did it. And within 3 years, 29 more runners broke the 4-minute mile barrier. Now, high school runners occasionally break 4 minutes. Last weekend was the Milrose Games in New York City, a huge indoor track and field meet, one of the early meets, and they have a high school mile as part of the Milrose Games. and I watched it on TV. It was on Saturday afternoon, and there was a high school runner that ran 3:59.6 indoors, broke 4 minutes, a high school runner. It's amazing. Every 4 years, we celebrate the Olympics. Do you get there by being good? Do you get there by being excellent? What does it take to get to the Olympics? Totally and completely outstanding. By how much? Just a tiny bit more. And even the outstanding, some are just a little bit more outstanding. And so take the 100 meters. 1/100th of a second separates first and second. What does the winner get? Well, the gold medal, the endorsement deals, the status of being Olympic champion. And they were 1/100th of a second faster than someone's name we'll never even know. First place finisher gets the gold. Second place finisher gets the silver. Third place finisher gets the bronze. What does the fourth place finisher get? Nothing. Now, it may not seem fair, but it's amazing because the result of that every year, every 4 years, is that new records are set. And how is that even possible? Because the standards get higher and higher because someone believes it's possible. Someone believes it's possible. So as you think about your business, what are the possibilities for you this year? Most of us will never be Olympic athletes, and that's okay, because life is not a sport. It's not win-lose. We can all be an outstanding father, mother, agent, teammate, sales leader. We can all be outstanding at that. How do we know? Because inherently outstanding is not just skill. It's not just skill. I'm going to stop there for a second and just take some thoughts. Because what I want, we may not all reach outstanding. We have to define what that is for us. But I want you to shoot at a minimum for that excellent category. Because everybody in this meeting today can strive to be excellent in what they do. And some of us are going to get to that outstanding because outstanding is just a tiny bit more. It's not a giant leap. And when we think that we're all in and we've given everything that we've got and we've pushed through and we've had that breakthrough, I'm here to tell you there's a tiny bit more in each of us. It's not a giant leap to be outstanding in what we do, to be an outstanding agent, to be an outstanding father, mother, teammate, friend, mentor. I'm going to stop there for a second and get some conversations on. We're going, who has a thought on what I've shared up to this point? Rick, are you there? Anybody have a thought, comment? Am I making sense? Gary, do you have a thought or a comment on what I've shared?
Yeah, I think that, like you say, once you create momentum to go through these levels, I think it gets easier and easier because the ball gets bigger and rolls faster.
Yeah.
The degree of separation, I know the old adage of at 211 degrees, you've got water, but you make motion at 212 when it starts with steam.
Yeah.
And it's 1 degree difference.
And sometimes it's for those who are newer at this, it's hard to even imagine or visualize ourselves getting to certain levels and we look at what some people are doing within the health markets community and we say, how is that even possible? How is that even possible? Small, simple things done consistently over and over again starts to compound. And we look at people that are achieving great success and high levels of productivity, and what we don't realize is the sacrifices and the price that they paid over time to get there because it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. Ronnie, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, looking through the years, it's not people, especially newer people, they see where you're at or they're looking at numbers and it looks like it's easy. But I mean, I look back, I've been doing this for a while, been in my storefront 10 years. But I remember the early goals. I mean, I wanted to make one of them early on was I wanted to make the trip. Obviously, I could always go as Rick's +1, so I didn't ever miss a trip,
Right.
but I wanted to earn it myself. I want to be top 250, then I wanted to be top 200, then I wanted to earn the trip on my own, then I wanted to be Chairman's Club, and then I wanted to be not just silver, but gold and then platinum. So like every year it's setting something else for the next year. And yeah, it's just doing things better, working a little harder, or not necessarily more hours, but working a little smarter and more efficient. It's not about always working more. It's about, finessing your craft and what you're doing and how you're managing your business, and learning from others all the time, not feeling like you have all the answers. It's getting great information from your fellow health markets people and actually not just listening to it, but incorporating that into your daily craft and what you do. And it is overcoming some of those thoughts that I could never be top 20 or I could never be top 15 or I could never, pushing some of those things aside and then I'll just, sort of head down, focusing on what you're doing, but also believing that you belong there once you hit it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I did a 2-hour workshop on Monday, 2 days ago, in Scottsdale for Cliff DeRoberts. He's a territorial VP. He's a peer of Rick's. And I went in and I did a goal planning and kickoff meeting for them. And so I got there early. It started at 9:30, and I was on at 10. So between 9:30 and 10, Cliff DeRoberts, the territorial VP, shared a lot of information and recognized some people. And there was one slide that he put up on the, and I took some notes on this. I was sitting in the back before I went on, and did my workshop. And I want to share this with you because in this meeting on Monday, there were 4 brand new agents. And I wrote, so I'm walking into the building in Scottsdale, and there was a young woman ahead of me carrying a notebook. And she was a few steps ahead of me, hits the elevator. They're on the 3rd floor. And I said, "Where are you headed?" And I'll ride up with you. And she said, "I'm going to the 3rd floor." And I knew that's where the Health Markets office was in Scottsdale. And I said, "You wouldn't happen to be with Health Markets?" She said, "Yes, it's my very first day. I've never sold anything." But she just got her licenses and she's just getting ready to start. And I said, "Awesome." Her first name was Rachel. I said, "That's great." I said, "I'm your entertainment for today." And we chuckled about that. But there's a slide, and I want all of you to embrace this slide. And Rick's probably shared it with you. Silas has probably shared it with you. But it kind of blew me away. And it was a slide on the production or the income of the past year of the top 1,000 agents, and then the top 500, the top 100, and the top 10. And the income has gone up by, in a couple categories, 19%, in a couple 16% over prior year. The top 1,000 agents who represent your organization, their income was just shy of 170,000 in the past year. The top 500, 272,000. The top 100, 620,000. And the top 10 was over a million, like 1.1 million. And so I got up and I started talking about that when I took the stage, and I asked, and 3 out of the 4 brand new agents were women and 1 male. I love that because 10, 15 years ago, you go to these meetings and 95% of the room is men. And I said, "What did you think about that slide? Do you believe that that's possible?" And so I called on Rachel because I met her going up into the elevator. I said, "Rachel, what are your thoughts on that?" I said, "Can you see yourself someday doing these things?" And she said, "Absolutely." And there was another woman from Las Vegas. that's part of Clifton Roberts territory. And I said, what are your thoughts on that? She goes, man, I see these numbers and it's almost like it's unbelievable to me. And I remember 4 decades ago when I started in the industry, the person that was recruiting me shared all this, and I'm thinking to myself, this can't be real. Because they're talking, the numbers were different, but the numbers were big. And I'm thinking, I'm not sure I can even believe this. And yet my first year I was able to do that. So I want all of you who are newer to embrace the fact, what an incredible opportunity. And you don't just do it for the money. You do it because you're impacting your customers and your clients, and the rewards and the benefits by doing an incredible job and being there for your people and building advocacy and referability. What happens is the income takes care of itself. But it's, I don't know if you guys have seen that slide, but I was just amazed. Good for all of you. What an incredible thing. Have any of you, have you seen that slide? Has Rick shared that? Has Silas shared that? It's amazing. It's amazing. Dan, what are your thoughts? Blackator, Dan, Dan and I know each other. I mean, what an incredible opportunity. We probably have some newer people on the call, and sometimes we say, I'll never get there. I'm not sure if this is even possible for me to even get to that good level, let alone excellent or outstanding. What are your thoughts?
Just a couple thoughts, and I apologize. I've been in and out on today's meeting, but I always walk away or get out with something. So, when you're talking about gold, silver, and bronze
Yes.
was more than talent. At least in my situation, when I made a determination about 7 years ago to work every day, my income started to escalate significantly.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because of my skill set. I can't do this part-time because I don't have the skill to turn it on and turn it off and be successful.
Yeah.
So that's what I would tell all the new people. And I've shared this with Silas before. First 3 years for most of us, you underpay yourself. The rest of the life, you're overpaid.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so true. I may not have this name right. Is it Khalil?
Yeah,
Yeah, awesome. How long you been in the business? What are your thoughts?
I've been here for about, say, 3 or 4 months. So
3
I'm
or
just
4
getting
months.
started, getting like all my stuff getting going and all that. But I mean, I've seen a bunch of people talking, everyone's successful, and it's really motivation for me when I hear all that. It makes me want to work harder and makes me want to just get started and start going, and, put my head down and work for those 3 years and, start reaping the benefits after putting in my time.
When you think about your word, one word, and again, it will come to you. It's not random. Any thoughts around the power of maybe what your one word should be this year?
I was thinking discipline,
Discipline.
keeping every day the same, same as like consistency too. I
Yes.
want to do everything the same, not really stray away and do anything different. Just keep doing the same thing. And if I fail, then I fail. I'll change that. But any other thing, I want to keep the same and keep doing the same thing.
And that's it. It's so important to have, especially as you get even for Ronnie and Gary that have done this many years, to have structure and consistency in terms of how you run your day. So the more consistency and the more structure that you can bring into your business, the more successful over time you're going to be. Otherwise, we run around kind of flying by the seat of our pants, and that doesn't work very well because we're always chasing the urgent then. So to have some consistency and some structure, because repetition is so important. Repetition in this business is so important, and becoming brilliant at the basics, the fundamentals. We never get away from the fundamentals of the business. That should never leave any of us, the fundamentals. This is
A long time, sorry.
Yes, go
A long
ahead.
time ago, somebody said, who was a top producer, that this is a really shitty part-time job.
Yeah.
And I've always remembered that because it is so true. Because you're always in the no zone and you're not getting to the yes zone because you're like right at that point before boiling that Gary's referring to.
Yes.
And I treated it like a part-time job and I hated it then. It sucked. I mean, that's just how it is. If you have to wake up in the morning and go, what am I going to do today? It's not a fun part-time job and it doesn't pay well. So if you're really doing this full-time but working part-time, you could be just that 1% away from everything breaking loose. But yeah, when that, and I know who it was, he's no longer with us. He's alive, but not with us. Said it's a really shitty part-time job. No truer words for me were ever spoken than that. So yeah, that consistency and discipline, especially when you're 3 months in, is huge.
That's
Great word.
Absolutely. And when, you know, we're off script now, but this is great conversation because I've seen so many agents, they get their licenses and they begin this journey and they meet resistance and they have roadblocks and obstacles and they get frustrated. And what happens is just before they're ready to break through, to maybe go from tier 2 to 3 or tier 3 to tier 4, just before they're going to have a breakthrough, they give up, they throw the towel in. And this is a marathon, it's not a sprint, and we're all our own ceiling, all of us. And regardless of all of these external circumstances, and there are many, they'll never ever be the root cause of the ceiling you place on your success or the ceiling you place on your business. Your ceiling is your refusal to allow those circumstances to define you. If you allow those external circumstances to define and derail you, you'll never get there. And I see so many people, they bump up against a ceiling and they continue to bump up against that ceiling and they get frustrated and they're just about ready to have a breakthrough. And so, you know, how do we have that break? We have to, here's a really, really important thing. When you're bumping up against a ceiling and you're not seeming to be able to break through, you have to visualize what it looks like on the other side. How does that make you feel? What does that really look like? And many, many times when we bump up against a ceiling is we're not willing to go through the pain, the sacrifice, the risk, or the uncertainty, all these things. And so we have to ask ourselves, are we willing to do whatever is necessary to get to that point where we're going to have a breakthrough? And it is a marathon. And Ronnie talked about it very, very well. You know, you show up, you keep working hard. Can I ever get into that top 250? Then pretty soon, what about the top 100? Because the top 10 agents, I don't know who they are, they started somewhere. Day one, week one, month one, year one, they weren't top 10. But they hung in there long enough and they did the things that are necessary, and eventually they arrived. You know, you want your business to pull you forward. And when you're excited and you have heart and mindset around all these things, again, inherently outstanding is not a skill. So one of the things that you need to decide this year is not to settle. There's more inside you. You know, we all have more capacity. There is another gear. And so the most important example is the example you set for yourself. Don't compare yourself with others. You know, what's the example you want to set for yourself? So today, make that choice. Because fundamentally, that's on all of us. We can choose. We can make that choice. What does this look like for us? We're not going to settle for good or excellent. We're going to give just a little bit more. Because it's not monumental. It's just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. That doesn't mean you're giving your life for this. There's balance is important in all these things. But when you think the tank is empty, there's still just a little bit more inside you. So you push through. You just push through. Sandra, I'm gonna open it up now. We've got a few minutes left. I'm just gonna open it up for anybody that has a question or a comment or anything. We've got about 8-9 minutes. Anybody?
If I like to throw out something here, I just learned this from my coach here, and I thought this was just crazy crazy good, but you talk about vision, you talk about planning for the future. You also talked about measuring it. Measuring
Yes.
it is also writing it down. So again, that's huge to write it down. So my coach came up with an idea of writing a letter to yourself a year from now. So I just did this over the weekend where you write yourself a letter of where you want to be, and you're already there. So you already wrote that letter, you already are there. I am already at this weight, I'm already at this wage, whatever it might be.
Right.
You write it out and then you have it set, send it to a friend, send it to whoever, and then get that letter a year from now, December, January, somewhere around there, and see how far you've come. I think that's hugely important. Again, you're putting it out in the universe. You're also putting that roadmap in your head. So I thought that was great advice.
Stephen, I love that because anytime we set goals and they're in our head, we're not going to be nearly as successful. So the next step is we set those goals, those commitments, and then we write them down. And that gets us even further. But what you said there is writing that letter to yourself and then sharing that, because once you put it out there, the percentages go up immensely. There's been research done on this. Why? Because there's accountability built in now because you shared with someone what you're going to do. And we're going to work extra hard if we share that with somebody. So it's first of all, we can't, our goals and our commitments should not reside in our head. We've got to take that next step and we've got to commit them to writing. And then not only writing, but reviewing them on a regular basis. And then that final step is we share them with someone else that has a vested interest in our success. If we do those things, I think it's something like 70% higher probability that you'll reach your commitments and goals for the year if you do those simple things. Kate, do you have a thought? Kate, is it Oster? Any thought?
Hi, no, I've really enjoyed this. I think, it's been helpful to come up with a word. In 2024, I would say my word is learning. But now in 2025, it's more organization and building from, the knowledge I've gained. And so, yeah, I just really appreciate these lectures and helps sort of put a lot of what I've been learning on a daily basis.
That's great. That's great.
So thank you.
You're welcome. And oh my gosh, when you say lecture, I'm not
Or,
smart. Yeah, I'm not smart
conversation.
enough.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm not smart enough to be
Yeah.
in a lecture forum, but it's we're learning together, and that's what's
Yeah.
great. This family and the fact that Silas and Rick are making these available. I love the feedback and the interaction with all of you, because sometimes if the groups get too large, it's harder to do that because we
Right.
learn from each other. Stephen Lichtig, why don't you close things down? What are your thoughts? What's rolling around that incredibly large head of yours? I know that there's a wealth of knowledge inside there.
I think what I'm thinking about most and what I was thinking about previously is, as far as a word, as far as a goal, it's something that myself that I need to figure out. I think back to, days in school, in grade school, and my parents, why did you get a C? Why didn't you get a B? Why didn't you get that A? And I was okay being a C student. I didn't have to be the smartest. I didn't have to be the dumbest. But now I look at it and I'm looking at, as far as income wise, I started out, Rick probably remembers, Rick told Scott, he's like, this guy's not going to make it. So I had to prove Rick wrong.
Yeah.
Actually, prior to that, my brother said to me, he's like, my brother who is in real estate, he said, you'll never do commission sales. He's like, you need a salary. So I had to prove him wrong. I had to prove Rick wrong. And then it gets to the point where, $100,000, I was okay making it up. And now it's like, I want to make more. I want to be able to go to that trip. And it's not because my wife said, Stephen, you need to make this much so that we can pay our bills. We need to make this much so we can go on a vacation. It's something that I want to do on my own. And there is so much in this large head. But the other thing is that I'm actually in the process of increasing my team right now. My daughter's boyfriend came to me probably about 6 months ago. Well, he told her that I want to make the kind of money your dad's making. So I know, and I look at that and I'm like, somebody's looking at me as a role model, that kind of, throws me off. Now I know he has to actually set his own goals as far as how to get there.
Sure.
But, somebody looking at me and saying, I want to do what he's doing, that kind of blew me away.
That's awesome. Well, and I'll share, and I'm not going to give you specifics, but Gary and I know each other well, and one of the things that the income, the potential is a phenomenal reward, but it's not the ultimate driving force. So the ability to do really, really well in this business affords all of you the opportunity to give more, to share more, or to do more. And I know that at this stage of Gary's life is a driving force behind that. And he shared specifically it's Deb, right? Is that your wife? Do I have that right? Yeah. What Deb, so that, I don't know if you want to make a comment or a thought, but it because sometimes people, I don't need to make that much, that's not important to me. It's not just the income potential, it's what you can do with that becomes just a driving force. Gary, do you have we've
Yeah,
got a couple minutes left.
Silas and I discussed that a few years ago. It's like, you make a comfortable living and you make more than you need, but I think it's good to work when you're able to physically and mentally to work. So what is going to be that motivator? So we had to look outside of ourselves. So my children are doing well. I had to look to my grandchildren. Our church has a building program going on. 2 Christian schools that my grandchildren go to have building programs. I never in my wildest dreams thought that we would be able to donate what we can. I mean, we're donating more money now per year than what we made in the landscape business, and we were moderately successful in that. So it's been kind of a fun thing where you can turn your focus onto some other good efforts, and not that you do it for notoriety. My name's not on any buildings, never will be. But having said that, just to be able to help out has been a beautiful thing.
That's awesome. Dan, are you there, Boss Garden?
I wonder if he's still on the phone.
He may be. Any other closing thoughts as we wrap up today? I want all of you to know how much I value and appreciate the fact that you've carved an hour out of your lunch hour to be a part of this. Our next lesson is it's always the second Wednesday of the month, noon to 1 Eastern time. It's March 12th is the date. Participant guide will be coming a few days before. But I value this. I value greatly my relationship with Rick and Silas, and without those guys, I wouldn't be here doing this. So I appreciate that immensely.
Well, Cliff, we appreciate all that you do to support the entire Health Markets team. Your messages are always very, very timely. I'm not always able to be on, and I appreciate being Silas Jessup today. And
You're better looking, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm not having a good hair day today, but that's okay. I don't have facial hair yet, so that's a good thing. But
I did get a text from Silas, and Roman's on his way. Roman's on his way home from the hospital. He's doing well.
Good.
Awesome.
Good.
That's great. I'll check in with him later.
Yeah. So you mentioned key points that I took away from today's session was, where your focus goes is where your energy is going.
Yeah.
It definitely is true. And so more so than ever with our newest agents, and some of them are on here, having a plan, work your plan, be consistent, be disciplined, but what are you willing to do to push through to your next breakthrough? And maybe it's doing just 1% more every day.
That's great. That's a great way to close. It's not monumental. Can we get 1% better each day? And we can all do that. We can all do that.
Yeah.
Great being with all of you. Make it a great rest of the week. Okay. We'll see you.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you being on today's call.
Okay. We'll see you
Thanks,
guys.
Cliff. Bye-bye.